Hello there, how are you doing? It is Simon Lewis here from onshaw.net with a short video showing you some AI tricks. Now, some of you, if you listen to my podcast, might be interested in finding out where do I get a lot of my statistics. And up until the time that ChatGPT came along, I used this spreadsheet from the Department of Education, which basically lists all the information about every school in the country. And I find it a very interesting database. It's got all 3,000 or so primary schools, and it's usually accurate to the year before, so it's not too bad, and it gives all various bits of information about them. And sometimes I use that to find out information such as, generally I'm dealing with patronage, so I find out about that, or I look for information on Gaelscoil and how many schools are Gaelscoil and Desh and all that kind of stuff. So all that information is there. For example, column N there, you'll see whether the school is designated Desh or not, whether the school is an island school. So sometimes that information would be useful. And looking at the list there, you can find some very interesting information. But since ChatGPT came along, I found it even more useful because I can find information that I'm really interested in. And what I can do is I can actually upload the spreadsheet itself. So I'm going to do that. Schools 2022 is what I've called it here. And essentially what it does is it uploads it, and I'm going to ask ChatGPT, basically using the spreadsheet, how many schools are there in Ireland? And what we'll do is you need to be accurate with ChatGPT, so I'll put in primary schools. So what it's going to do is it's going to upload the spreadsheet, it's going to analyze it first of all and explain what they see is in the spreadsheet, and then it's going to give me the answer. So it's analyzing the spreadsheet as we speak, okay, and it's going to tell us in a minute or two what's actually in the spreadsheet, and then we're going to start asking them a couple of questions really about it. It's still analysing away. It's a big document, so sometimes it takes a while. And the questions we might try and ask after, there we are. So it tells us there's 3,230 schools listed in the spreadsheet which are likely to be primary schools because they're referred to as national schools. It's quite clever in that respect. What I want to find out though is how many of schools are there in Monaghan, County Monaghan. So I'm going to ask that. How many schools are there in County Monaghan? So it's going to look at the spreadsheet here and it's going to find out, and it's clever enough to understand this, and it's what I love about ChatGPT, that before that I would have had to create this kind of complicated enough formula, and it tells me that there's 62 schools in County Monaghan, and I have no reason to disagree with that. I'm going to ask a harder question now, and this is where this comes into its own. How many of the schools in County Monaghan are single sex? So we're starting to move into data that I'm interested in, and we'll see what they come up with this. So I'm only giving it bare information, and let's see what we go with. So it's analysing that. So it's a harder question, so it seems to have the answer. It says there's 57 single-sex schools. Now, that doesn't sound right to me at all. So remember, when you come to ChatGPT, one of the things you have to do is you have to have, you don't take their word for it all the time. So I'm going to have to give it a bit more information. How will we know that it's a single-sex school? So how we know in the database is columns S and T will tell you that. And if it's a blank cell, that in one of them, it's a single-sex school. So we're going to have to find out. We're going to have to say this. That doesn't seem right. I'm going to say that doesn't seem right to me. So I'm going to say a single-sex school is one where if there is a blank cell in column S or T, then it is likely to be single sex. And let's see what it comes up with. So I'm speaking in English to this as if I'm talking to a real person, and they're going off finding this information very quickly. So let's see how we go here. And let's see what the answer is. now after we've explained it a little further. So this is part of working with AI, is they do need a little bit more information sometimes. And actually you'll find out, and this might surprise you because I know this is to be correct, is that there are actually only 5 single-sex schools in the whole of County Monaghan. Some of you might be surprised at that, but given that that's 5 out of 62, it isn't really that surprising either. It's still quite high. It's still, what's that, 1 in 6 schools, so about 17%. So it is quite high, even though the number looks low. As some of you who listen to the podcast know, Ireland is fairly, it's not unique, but it's fairly unique in the Western civilization for the amount of single-sex schools that we have. I think it's 16% of our 16 or 17% of Irish primary schools are single-sex, and the next closest, I think, is 1% or 2%. So anyway, that's interesting. So there's 5 single-sex schools. Now the other question I'll always ask is, how many of the schools in County Monaghan are multi-denominational? Now, I know the answer to this question without asking, so let's see if ChatGPT gets it right. So it's analysing. And let's see what it comes up with. So I'm hoping that it gets it right. It says there's no schools listed as multi-denominational County Monaghan according to the data, and that is absolutely correct. Monaghan is one of very few counties in Ireland that has no multi-denominational schools. And one of the things then you can do is you can start looking at other data as well. So I'm going to show you a Wikipedia page which lists counties by their size. And Monaghan here is a reasonably small county. It's 1,295 square kilometres. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to look at this and just say, Monaghan. Now you could ask ChatGPT this, but I'm going to say County Monaghan is 1,295 square kilometres in size. So how many schools does it have per kilometre square? So let's see what happens here. So you're asking them a question from there, and there is a reason. I'll have a follow-up question here for this, because I want to. So about 0.048 schools per kilometre square. Now, let's look at a different county. Maybe we'll go with their neighbours in Cavan. So Cavan is 1932 in terms of square kilometres. County Cavan is 1932 square kilometres. How many schools per kilometre square are there in Cavan? And let's see who wins. So let's see if they get the analysis. They have to find out how many schools there are in Cavan in the spreadsheet. Let's see how many they have. And what you can start doing then is you can start looking at lots of data in that respect and creating tables and things like that. So they have less schools per kilometre. So County Cavan have fewer schools than County Monaghan per square kilometre. And you'd ask questions around that, because you can probably do the same thing then if you want to go to Dublin, which is a very small county as well. And you can start using this in educational reasons, I suppose. Dublin is actually the third smallest county in Ireland. I don't know if people know that. So Dublin is 932 square kilometres. How many schools per kilometre square? And let's see what they say here. So you're looking at extra data all the time, and I suppose in an educational kind of point here, rather than using this for podcasting purposes, now you can start asking children questions in a lesson of like, well, why do you think? And I presume Dublin's going to have a lot more. It's got, 0.5, so a huge number more, per kilometre. And you ask the children why that is. And obviously Dublin is more dense and all the rest of it. And there's the reasons why. So you can start seeing how you can use any spreadsheet with any data to start asking all sorts of interesting questions. I'd be interested in hearing, if you found any good spreadsheets that are out there that might be of use. You can actually create tables using ChatGPT for that. I might just say, can you make a table showing the information on number of schools per square kilometre for those 3 counties? And what it will do is it'll actually convert that into a nice little table, which I find really nice about ChatGPT 4 and well worth doing. So it's going to hopefully output a table there. It's taking a little bit of time, as it often does, but I'd be interested in hearing what you're doing with ChatGPT, if you are, and what ideas you might have for databases. So you can see it actually makes it quite nice here. So you see it there. There's the table they've created for that. a clear comparison for the 3 counties, and you can see even how many schools in Dublin they've added in, and you get this lovely looking table which you can copy and paste and do whatever you want to with. So as I said, let me know if you have any ideas for working with spreadsheets, particularly that spreadsheet, and what kind of data might be used and what might be information. I use it a lot for surveys and things like that. And really, that's kind of ChatGPT 4 and messing around with spreadsheets. I hope you enjoyed it.